Hello, I'm Jack Rickard with EVTV. This is my friend and consigliere, compadre.
Something, I'll tell
Brainius Magnus Maximus.
It's been a long week. It is Friday.
And we're back to work after a bit of hiatus last week. I'd like to thank the hundreds, literally,
Wow.
of people who wrote about the passing of my mother. The woman was 77 years old. She had to go sometime. We kind of had a party that week. She'd had a long illness, and it was time for her to go. But many of you met her at EVCon, and she is Pistol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she did. She was out there at EVCon at the final dinner. Yeah, she was great.
We'll miss her. You know, that's just a little something I got to deal with. It's my first time being an orphan waif.
Yeah, that's right.
But last year or so, she was a big baseball fan and is my wife. And although I have to see the Moscow Ballet tonight.
Some ballet, yeah, Don Quixote.
Price for breakfast, I tell you.
I know, it's a lot of work. It's tough.
She keeps raising the price.
I know, it's
But
tough.
anyway, they love to watch baseball, and I don't really care anything about it, but I'd sit with them and kind of got into the game. Of course, the Cardinals won the series last year.
Yeah, won the World Series.
So it's kind of part of my routine, and I'll miss her. But that said, life goes on. This week, we returned to work with a vengeance, and we're just scrambling with both hands. I guess we should introduce our new sponsor, Fitz Root Beer.
Oh, yeah, there we go. A little product placement.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm just having a root beer.
Fits to be tied.
They won't pay us either.
Yeah, that's right.
Got any news?
Let's see. You had talked to me the other day about General Electric. I guess that Jeff Immelt had said that they're committed to electric vehicles regardless of what's going on. They still think that there's some shekels in there, some ducats for GE.
The dawning awareness of what we've been talking about, and our viewers have known, if they believe me,
They're paying attention.
for a couple of years, we're going to have a little bit of a falter among the OEMs, except VW, which announced a new electric car.
Another new electric car. Well, they must
they're
have
up to 38
announcements,
and they've never popped a battery that I know of. I'm starting to get into
it. Is pretty cool.
I think they're just messing.
I think they're just messing with everybody. Yeah, exactly.
But General Electric, not so. What did Mr. Immelt have to say?
Well, he just said that they are committed to the long-term development of lithium and sodium batteries, onboard electronics, most of the things, power generation. Obviously, we've seen recharge systems, charging systems that they've been working on, and we've been.
Michael Mahan is the head of their charger initiative, and this week they have announced, that kind of. They have a really over-designed, and I don't mean the engineering design, but like a design, a Fabergé charge.
Well, and they do have a guy. I can't remember who the designer was of that, but he's a fairly famous industrial designer.
So it's a very modern-looking charge pedestal, and they added networking to it, a wireless and Ethernet and everything.
Oh, okay.
To where with some applications for iPhones, where you can find them, you can manage your own network of them, you can charge people or just track usage. It's a very flexible system, and so I'd like us to get to know these guys.
Yeah, we actually have had some email conversations with them, phone conversations, and it's from the days of Boardwatch. You're right that they're like talking to countries, not companies.
Yeah,
it's just a lot of stuff.
With Sun and Cisco and so forth. At the end, we owned them all.
Right. It just takes a lot of, and they don't know who we are. I mean, But maybe if you're watching, anybody from GE or Michael Mahan, hi.
Well, I'm sure they'll think it's because they're technically brilliant now. Our viewers know better. I found some fascinating museum photos of people charging cars around the 1900s, and bought an ad off of eBay. I was reading about, I've got an old 1913 electric car repair manual that I like to read.
Yeah, right.
And it brought up these mercury vapor diodes, basically, rectifiers.
Rectifiers, yeah.
And that's what they use to rectify AC to DC for battery charging.
Charge the batteries, okay.
And so that led to a ad, and it was by General Electric.
I know, isn't that
of their
something?
full line. This is a 1907 ad that appeared in Motor Week.
Oh, okay.
Which they already had automotive magazines by 1907. And there was General Electric with a full-page ad about their mercury vapor rectifiers.
Rectifiers, yeah.
And so I put together a little video with the, so it is curious to me, or it appeals to my sense of whimsy, that a company in 1907 selling chargers to the electric vehicle community, which then disappeared for 100 years.
For 100 years, yeah. They were doing other things.
And is now back, and guess what? They're doing chargers for
electric vehicles.
And there's something to be said for tradition and consistency and
Right.
persistence.
Right,
And
yeah,
those
100 years
those
of
are
persistence,
the
yeah.
values I value highly. So that's I'm sure they'll misconstrue my level of fanboys, but that's why. And I've shared that video on our show with the photographs, and so our viewers know what I'm talking about. A little background on that. What else you got? Well, we've got lots of junk here. This is a brand new Hort 9. We have become a net gain dealer and an Evnetics dealer and an everything dealer, mostly to please Matt Hauber.
Yes,
Now,
yeah.
since he's competing with me and with him, and we're now he's going to launch a video series to battle back. We're going to. Dave Blair, 65-year-old guy up around Kansas City, was going to come today and buy these. And
Yeah, he called me. He was
he got
actually
lost
further
in-
away than when he started.
he's wandering around Missouri.
I told him, Dave, turn back and go home and try again on Monday.
Well, you keep telling him to Google it. The man doesn't have a computer.
That's what I understood. He does. I Googled, yeah.
But this is kind of interesting. This is the net gain with the 26 improvements. And one of the key ones, I think, aside from the better brushes, is these larger terminals.
the
I
half-inch
wish we
terminals.
had those on the 11-inch in the Escalade.
Yeah, yep. Yeah.
These are nice big terminals, and he had 26 engineering changes last year. These are about $1,900, I think, is the MSRP on them. And this week, we actually rebuilt an early one.
Our first.
And painted it green, our first net gain, and that sucker's strong.
I know.
You can barely hold it with a 12-volt battery on it. Let's take a look at that.
All right.
Here we've got our net gain green motor.
I know this was in the very first build that we did in the
This
Speedster.
was our first electric motor that
Yep,
went in a
yep,
car
yep.
in our first Speedster. If you recall, when we did Redux, we upgraded to Net Gain's new motor that has the half-inch terminals and the bigger fan blades and so forth.
Yeah, yep, optical port, all kinds of good stuff, yeah.
You've seen this motor a lot. Last time
Yeah,
I
we-
showed you how to change brushes.
Change the brushes, yeah.
And we put some new Hellwig split top. What were those, 860s?
H60s, yeah.
And showed you how to do the change, and then did it on the 11-inch motors that are now in the Escalade. So we had pieces of this motor laying around. We're kind of using it to show people.
Yeah, what it looks like, yeah,
and
motor.
We lost the bolts.
The bolts, yeah, they're in a box, I bet, somewhere.
And so Brian got with Hunter Hamstra.
Yeah.
Then got some replacement bolts. I'd kind of polished on this end a little bit. And today we put the motor, we assembled the motor. Brian drilled me a hole here in the cable so we could do it vertically. The stuff was so heavy, I wound up using a cherry picker anyway.
Yeah, we had to drop everything in place. It's heavy and kind of unwieldy with that weight, yeah.
To put the this end on, there's a bearing. And Brian went, and this is a little trick, I guess we could have videoed. What would we video? He took it
Nothing.
and put it in the oven.
Yeah, the door was closed.
Right.
Yeah, it's like there's a piece in the oven,
We
really.
took this in and put it in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit
Yeah.
and baked it for 35 minutes, expecting a really good tuna casserole.
Yeah, it wasn't bubbly and cheesy.
We got our end bell back
That's
out
right.
instead. It didn't really act like it wanted to tap on. I didn't want to force it.
Yeah, it's just
And so we had it
Thin metal.
vertically here, and Brian brought it back with his welding gloves and set it on top, and it dropped right
it just it dropped on. We just torqued everything to 35 foot-pounds, the bolts.
Did you tap it any or anything?
No,
Or
didn't tap it at all.
It just
No.
slid on.
It just slid on. Yeah.
And we put the bolts in it, and then it cooled off, and I'm sure it's around there pretty good now.
I think so. Yes, I think it grabbed on pretty good.
And so that's a little trick. It's all metal. Of course, it has a bearing, but it's sealed, and it's in a motor that's good, 255 C.
Yeah.
And so 350 Fahrenheit
Yeah.
isn't going to
Just
hurt it.
baking the turkey.
But it expanded all the metal, and of course the shaft's still cold, and so it slid right on there. So that's a little trick you can use in that situation. The rest of it, again, your motor advance, when we put the brush bell on, you kind of have to look for A2, and now this isn't, it's really by the bolts on the end, but when you have counterclockwise drive end, the way I always look is there's 3 marks on here. It wouldn't do any good to show you. They're just barely scribed into the case. CC, N, and CW for counterclockwise, in, and clockwise. The bolt is actually lined up with CC, and that's the official way to do it. The quick way to look at it is if A2 is lined up with N, you're advanced for counterclockwise drive end. And so we got that lined up. We used a little blue stuff on the bolts.
Blue Loctite.
Torqued
Yeah.
to 35 pounds.
Yes.
And we're all back together. It made a fearsome racket and still does. I've got a little rig set up here with our green batteries and now our green motor. Why did I paint it green, you ask? I know I've got 2 cans of red paint around here. I even found the cap off of one of them,
found the cap?
and we haven't painted anything red in a year.
We've lost a can of paint.
We can't find the red paint.
If anybody has it, let us know.
So this is Hunter Green,
Yes.
which I'm
nice
surprised, since George's son's named Hunter, that that's not their official color.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Nick red.
we like green around here, and so this is sort of EVTV green too. And so I hit it with the green paint instead while we were assembling it. And so we've got our motor back, but it needs a little break-in. Brian, would you hold this? This is a 12-volt battery. It seems to be spinning faster than I remember, but a big torque jump when we turn it on just about gets away from us.
And then it's not bad at all once it's spinning, just that first hit.
And there you can hear it spinning up. It's actually right now a tremendous racket after the fashion of John Allen's
Yeah, that was loud.
issue. And that's probably these brushes. And after 8 or 10 hours of break-in, that
Yeah, they
should
should be a lot quieter.
I'm not going to throw you with that a whole lot either.
No, that's not exactly great
That's,
video, or at least great audio. Yeah, that is green. I guess I was gone a half an hour and you couldn't find any red paint, huh?
I don't know what you did with my red paint. I'm kind of teased about it.
He found the cap.
I
Found the
of it,
cap.
but I bought 2 cans of red paint, and we haven't painted anything red. Where's my paint?
I was running around spraying the cat.
Anyway, this is a red one. This is
Yeah,
brand new.
Nick Gain red, yeah.
Warp 9. George is very supportive of the concept and had apparently a good time and a good result from the Electric Vehicle Conversion Convention. That's scheduled for September 26th to the 30th of this year, and someone has recently reminded me that that's 5.5 months away or 5 months away.
5 months away,
So we
five
need
and a
to
half.
get ready for that.
Get rocking and rolling, baby.
You want to get registered certainly before the 1st of June.
Yes.
We're getting some more and greater participation from some of the industry notables. Rich
yes.
Rudman's bringing his Estang.
The Estang, the new car, yeah.
Of course, Ron Adamowicz will be back, but now with his new Camaro with the Evnetics Shiva in it.
Yeah, and I think, what did he do? He went to those high-end batteries, I think. And yeah, he kind of rebuilt that car, yeah.
Yes, and it's kind of bad looking.
Yep.
But George has offered to give away. Now it's not this motor. It is. This is doesn't have the alt shaft.
Right. That's the one we're giving away. Yeah.
And that's the one he's giving away. He had an OEM or something, one of them without the alt shaft, and then backed out. So he's got a few of these motors around.
Yep.
And if you come to the Electric Vehicle Conversion Convention and go to George's booth and talk nicely to him, he'll let you enter a drawing for this motor. And
It's gonna be nice. Yeah.
on Saturday evening in our big
At our
wine
banquet.
dinner,
Yeah. At our banquet. Yes. Absolutely. Yep. Banquet
we
wine.
will draw a name, and they will be asked to remove
To
this
remove
motor
a
from
couple
the
hundred pounds of
stage.
motor out of our way.
Right.
We always do this. Like, okay, now you won. Get it out of here.
Get it out.
No, we don't ship.
And so, well,
Yeah, we're kidding.
Whatever they need. Yeah, and I think this, we'll see more of this among our vendors. You've been working on a vendor floor.
Absolutely.
This is going to be a little more advanced than our aircraft hangar. We're actually going to have a arena, a convention
The
center.
convention center,
type
yeah, the
thing,
Showman Center.
with vendors and a big session area and big screen.
Be able to bring the cars inside.
Bring the
Yeah.
cars in
Yep.
and charge them and look at them and
Right, exactly.
stand around and talk about them.
Yep.
And so I think it'll be a step up.
Yeah, I
from
do.
what we
I really
did
do.
last
It'll
year.
be a blast.
And we hope you'll join us. What else did we do this week? I made another layer on the Platinum. I
Yeah, oh,
still
yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah,
quite
right.
have this thing.
Yeah, it's not quite
but
done.
we're getting closer all the time, and it's probably going to go under Speedster Duh,
Okay.
and we'll see what it does. Let's take a look.
All righty.
All right, we're here back with Platinum Series, the pack that keeps on giving. I have made a couple of advancements. One, on this end, I've got the fuse, the contactor, some copper straps. We've added our third layer. I've strapped the positive end of that to the negative end of layer 2 with this copper strap here. And going to this end, I made a little copper strap to the shunt. I've got a little 500 amp 50 millivolt shunt we'll use with our JLD 404 to measure the current out of this pack. And that goes to the negative terminal. So we're all strapped up now for the first time, and I don't want to leave these batteries laying. We still have to do our edge that I've started here of angle aluminum to bolt up to the car, and we'll put another layer of polycarbonate in here to mask everything off. But before we do that, I want to charge the battery pack as soon as possible. Now that it's bottom balanced, I do not want to leave them at 2.75 volts indefinitely. They normally stock and ship LifePost 4 cells at 50 or 60% state of charge. But we're going to take this all the way up to a full charge for the first time. The contactor is necessary to, so I've got a 12 volt battery here, and one end of it's just grounded to the case, which the contactor is also, and I hook the other to this battery, and that completes the circuit. And I am at 102.9 volts. we've got basically a 3P36S pack here. Let me hook up my cell phone and call the central computer, and we find that 102 point, what did I say, 9 divided by 36 is 2.8583 volts. This is not unusual. In the interim, sitting there resting, they've kind of creeped up and to about 2.85, but they've done that sort of all in concert. We're going to charge it to 3.65 volts times 36, and that would be 131.4 volts, and that's the charge function. I've got an old Thunder Sky 160 volt 30 amp charger that has some long cables on it that I've hooked on to our terminals here, and I'll turn that on and adjust it, and we should be able to get it eventually into a kind of a constant voltage point at about 131 volts, and then let the current decrease to, this is a 60 amp hour pack, and 0.05 of that would be about 2.5 amps or 3 amps. We'll call it 3 amps. That's about as close as I'll be able to detect. And that will charge our pack rather completely. And then I can finish the mechanical work of adding the angle irons and the polycarbonate to seal this up into one unit that could be slung under a car. And I think it'll be a pretty good package. It's not optimal for volumetric density, and it's probably a little heavy with all this copper and polycarbonate and stuff in it, but I think it'll do. And it should be interesting to run that. I've decided to try it on Speedster Duff, which has a 36 cell 180 amp hour Calbs in it, and see if it does indeed stiffen up the pack and provide additional range and work out all the charging and discharging without any problems, and we'll see what that does. I'm going to have 3 additional wires that we'll bring out on a gland nut. One of them is, of course, the wire to energize the pack, so I can turn it on and off remotely for testing purposes. The 2 others will come from the shunt, and that I can use to measure the amp hours in and out of just this pack, and compare that to the amp hours in and out of the rest of the pack, and see how we do. And so that's kind of the progress on the Platinum series as it stands right now. The rest of this is going to be really boring, but I'll be here for it, and if I'm not interrupted by a daughter, I won't burn this up, cause any explosions or anything of the sort. They're estimating the damage at the General Motors facility as at $3 million, and the one guy that went in the hospital is still there. Kind of signs of concussion and so forth, so it may have been more serious than we first thought. Anyway, I've got some additional news about A123 that we're going to show you a little later. I think you might be interested in.
Well, you must have, what, 1 million hours into that by now?
Yes,
he's been no help recently. He's just over there.
It's led to desperation. It's been too much work to build those. And but curiously, my source in China now has A123 modules purportedly.
Oh, okay.
And we ordered a 3 in parallel, 28 in series, official A123 module to examine and test, and let's take a look.
Okay.
We're here with a kind of a new development. This is actually a A123 built module that they make, I understand, in Livonia. That's what I was told. This one is clearly used. It's kind of been roughed up. It's got the bands and the little aluminum pans, which as it turns out are very fragile and are easily bent. And I'm going to show you some more about that. First, let's take a look at A123's assembly video. That's kind of interesting and maybe give you an idea of how these are put together. So that's what they have out on the internet about this module. We bought this from China, if you can believe it. All things told, a couple $1,000s. I'm sure they charge $5,000 or $6,000 from A123. This is a 3P28S module that we received pretty much fully charged. We pulled the top off. It has two connectors on each end. One of them isn't used. In this case, the rear ones are. They came bare. They take a short M6 bolt, and this is too long. I have to use washers to set our connectors to it. In testing it, we don't have a constant current load that'll do the 90-something volts, 93 or 94 volts that this came in at. Most of ours are limited to 50 volts, some of them to 10, and we typically deal with 1 to 3 cells in tests. It says replace bad pack. We'll see how this goes. I'll explain what I'm doing here. The first thing we did was remove the cover, a bunch of little Torx screws. The device is clearly used, and that gives us these cells. We start out with a little 3 crimp, and they're like crimps over each tab, and I believe those are not just crimped, but spot welded onto the tabs. And so then we have alternate versions of 6. We took the device, and to bleed it down, as I say, my constant current loads won't work. So I've gone back to some old technology. Here on the floor, I've got 4 half ohm 5,000 watt resistors. They're actually quite expensive, wired in series, and I can use different combinations of those on larger packs by connecting the leads to different tabs. I've got this set up right now for the full 2 ohms of resistance, and as I say, each of the things can absorb 5,000 watts of power, and but this puts out about 5,000. When we do 2 ohms into 90 volts, we get about 45 amps, and so we really are doing about 4 kilowatts into this thing. It's like the furnace in a house, and it puts off a great deal of heat. I had it stood up on its side, and the heat chimneyed up the inside of one of the resistors and caught the treated wood that I had it mounted to on fire. Fortunately, a little stag beer solved that situation, and now I've got it laying on its back. We have drained the pack down precisely, and the pack's right now reading 84 volts. We've taken 53.95, or essentially 54 amp hours, out of the pack, and we were still up around 3.08 volts on most of the cells. but I have found a couple that were quite low. We're on one right now that was showing about 1.4 volts under load, and so we disconnected the load, and I'm putting a charger on it now to bring that one up, and I've got another one marked back here up. Clearly they were not bottom balanced. I don't know that the cells are bad. In fact, at 54 amp hours, I'd be okay, but I think I can add some energy to those, bring it down some more, and go from their top balancing concept to our bottom balancing. They have a Brazilian, very tiny spaghetti wires, de-spaghettied with little clamps running down the middle, and of course there are BMS items on the end. We're not going to fool with the BMS. Overall, the construction is kind of surprising. This is grossly over-engineered and grossly underbuilt. This is just some bands to hold it together, and each pair of cells, 2 cells, into each of these little sort of open pans, and the pans are so light that they take on damage if you look at them. And I'm sure this was done in shipping either from Livonia to there or from China to here. That doesn't seem to affect its operation any, and we've taken 54 amp hours out already, so we've got a good battery pack. I think by bottom balancing it a little bit and charging it, we may get perhaps 56 amp hours, which is what we're getting from these A123 cells. All of it assembled weighs 106 pounds, and so I'm finding it kind of an interesting alternative. We actually purchased this at a very low price of about $10 per cell, or about $850. By the time we paid the shipping, it was $16.50 or so. If you want this one, I'll let you have it for $2,500. So the shipping and the middleman is most of it. They're selling these quite cheap, but they're used, or what my guy in China calls half finished. I didn't know if he meant half built, but apparently half done. Why am I not dissuaded by used? Well, if the pack's good, these are LiPo 4 cells. They haven't been making the packs that long, and I'm confident they'll last a number of years if I can get them to my bottom balancing scheme and don't have any bad cells in it. If I do, of course, we have cells and could, in theory, replace them. I'm not sure I want to tackle that. First, because of the crimps, but second, the bands and these little pans. I'm not sure if I get this all apart, I can ever get it back together. It makes a very small package. You can compare that with our Platinum series. We're 3P36S. This is 3P28S. And this is much more compact and probably some lighter. But it's quite fragile. We've got any number of dents in the little pans. And so I'm not feeling a whole lot of envy here on the very professionally engineered and manufactured module from Livonia. I think we may be on a much better track with our green 12 volts and our Platinum series than this. I gotta tell you, I would be hesitant to put this in a car. It would work, but there's not much protection here. These are simply hanging in these slots. I guess the pressure of one on the next kind of minimizes the motion, but I'm surprised at how lightweight the construction is after all that over-engineering. But in any event, a number of you had inquired about it when I talked about it on the blog. We have received one, and unfortunately the shipping and the PayPal charges are more than the device ordered from China. And but we if there's any demand for them, we'll get them for you. You can get them direct from China. Again, I'm not recommending any vendors. I've had some bad experiences with that. I'm not responsible for them. If they take your money and don't send you anything, it wasn't my fault. And so we have one in a row. If there's a demand for them, we can get more. But I think most people will probably build their own. But this is compact, relatively lightweight, 106 pounds. It's looking pretty good. I can say at 40 amps, these little crimps, which look lightweight to me, were building up no heat. The pans were building up no heat. I think all their thermal issues are overwrought. I don't think you have to do anything with these cells. The heat is not a function of your maximum current. And of course, 3 of these can put out 1400 amps. The heat's a function of your average current. And going down the road, we typically see 50 or 100 or 150 amps. Probably average about 150 amps, 125, 150 amps in an average car. I'm convinced this pack could handle that, and there'd be no heat buildup at all. It's fine without any liquid cooling at all. The pans, I suppose, provide some cooling, but it's just not. The heat shows up at the tabs, and I can run my finger along this at 45 amps, and I'm feeling nothing. It's just absolutely not there. Not the way I would do it, but an interesting design, and certainly more compact than mine. And so, there's something to be said. You can buy a couple of these and put them in a car. You'd have 180 volts, 60 amp hours, and certainly be less than $5,000, and you would have a pack. With our small cars, with the Curtis, you can run that Curtis controller at 90 volts just fine, and it would work just fine. Again, 60 amp hours, you're probably looking at 40-mile range. But so one of these at a couple $1,000s would actually run a Speedster, and you'd get full power out of it. You wouldn't get full range the way we build them, but it would roll just fine, and you'd have a 106-pound battery pack, which is quite light. And so it's just something to talk about. So that's what's going on now. I'm going to trim up these and bottom balance this, and then we'll charge it and see how many amp hours we can actually pack into it before we have one hit 4 volts. And that'll be our pack capacity. And then I'll mark that. Well, some days you're the bug, and some days you're the windshield. And today we're the bug. This is a nice, pricey module. I did want to examine one. I don't think I want a second one. While we were charging our cell that went down to 1.7 volts, we had another cell down here that was a little weak at about 2.85. The rest of them were about 3.08, and so I was going to bring these two up and continue to drain the pack. We charged this one, went down to this one, and there's no load on the battery at this point. And this one had gone to an interesting voltage of a 0.003 volts. Not good, a shorted cell. If you recall, I had this happen with a cell in our Platinum series, and it took the other 2 cells with it. When I separated them, those 2 came back and had between a 5 and 10% loss in capacity. The shorted cell never recovered. I started taking this apart, took the 2 end caps off, A123 systems. This is what their BMS board looks like. There's one on each end, plugs into these connectors here, and it's quite a little board. A lot of surface mount stuff, very small, kind of identical components over and over again. I think this is one of those little shunt boards that'll do, 200 milliamps or something. And so that fits in there. Couple of problems. One, this thing is banded together with stainless steel, and it's tack welded right there. So it would be a little bit difficult to disband this and replace the cells. Then we've got these crimped welded pieces here, which I don't know quite how to duplicate. I decided to simply short the cell, and I made me a little copper rod, and I laid that in there, and we tried soldering it in. They won't take solder on these things. And then we actually got out our TIG welder and tried to TIG weld it in there. That didn't work either. And so I couldn't short out the cell. This is essentially useless. The big problem with it, I'm kind of losing interest in it. Between the connections and the straps, this was not something I can maintain anyway. It's kind of a built device, and it's sort of like my big 40 volt in the resin. If it goes bad, you just lost the whole bundle. And from my perspective, maybe you all have some ideas. Yeah, I could get a banding machine. I don't know what I'd do about these tabs. We'll think about it a little bit. Maybe you all have some ideas. But I'm a little wounded here. I don't see much way to maintain this, particularly if there was further cell loss. But in any ongoing sense, this would be a nightmare to do regular repairs on. And so, I don't know, we're not going to do much with it right now. This cell right here is completely shorted, no voltage at all. And there's no real way to bridge these things or connect to them that suggests itself at the moment.
Well, that's interesting.
That didn't work out too good. One of the cells
Some
took
days
a
are
dime.
better than others, huh?
Yeah, some days you're the bug, some days you're the windshield. I have had a tough week.
One of those weeks, yeah.
That didn't work out so well, and more glaring, or more to the point, and this goes to the whole OEM electric car thing, is this battery module is not really repairable.
No.
No one is going to be able to repair these. They would have to be pulled out and sent to some facility that specializes in rehabbing
The batteries, yeah.
those batteries,
yeah.
or the factory,
Or the factory,
which
really
may not
don't.
be there.
Right, really the factory.
I don't have a convenient, well, we'd have to have a banding machine and a spot welder and just too much stuff to deal with this kind of battery pack.
Yeah, it's actually crazy.
It's quite fragile.
Yeah.
I was shocked. The aluminum.
Those little aluminum plates.
I wasn't electrocuted, but I was surprised
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, surprised.
that, like the aluminum pans that hold the cells, are they're like eggshell.
Yeah, we showed them. They start to bend. I mean, they just
Take 'em and
just
they're
picking
bent.
it up. Yeah, and in shipping they got a little banged up.
Yeah.
And it came in a nice wooden crate.
Yes, very securely crated.
Yeah.
Just one cell gone. The rest of them are perfect. And this thing's an electronic laser.
Yeah, right. It just lays
You
there.
plug it in, you turn it on, and it
It
lays
lays
there.
there.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
and what do you do with
useless.
it?
A
Yeah.
boat anchor.
Yeah.
And
If
so
you dare throw in water.
what am I supposed to do with that?
Hey, don't they blow up if you throw in water?
The topic I'm sure everyone's wanting to discuss is progress on the Escalade.
Yeah.
And we haven't spent a lot of time on the peripherals because we wanted to, I mean, if we can't get a motor in it, we can't drive the car.
And what are we going to do with it? Yeah.
And so for the last few months, few weeks, you've watched us measuring and strutting in front of it, but we haven't actually put it in.
Haven't done a whole hell of a lot.
We got a new torque converter, a 1400 RPM torque converter from Performance Torque Converters.
Torque converters, yeah.
And you got your mounting plates worked out.
We did. Yeah.
And welded.
Yes, we
and we got the proper flex plate off
Yes,
the engine.
off of the
and
engine,
onto
yep,
it.
on the stock
we
engine.
had to make a spacer to get the
Had to get
proper
another
magic
half inch
number.
because we were a little tight. We were
And
tight on
boy,
that torque
were
converter.
we close, huh?
Yes, we were very close.
You didn't have to pull that torque converter at all. In fact, at one point, we were actually binding.
Yeah.
Well, let's show them what we're talking about.
All right.
El Bueno,
Hey.
the fight continues.
Yeah, we've been battling at it a little bit more.
So Lucien did us a plate.
He made a little half inch out of some 6061 plate. We've got some cutouts on it. One is for our sensor, and the other is that little hole that we have so that we can actually get the torque converter bolts up through it.
So we were 0.37, and you did 0.5.
We did 0.5, yeah.
But that's going to suck us out a little bit.
Right.
And there's enough run on that torque converter to do that.
To center in here, because we were at least a 1/4 inch too tight, and maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
Maybe 3/8, but another 1/8 is not going to hurt us.
And you have a hog out for your bolt.
Yep, we got a hog out, and this is for our hole, and this when it goes on is oriented like this right here around the shaft. This is the top. Here's the hog out for the bolt, and the bolts go into the torque converter from behind.
All right. And then you have one for your
Then we've got our adapter plate. We've also got our sensor in here. And here's our adapter plate. There's the top of that. And it all slides over. If I can, what am I doing here? I got a little cockeyed. What is Brian doing?
I'm not sure.
I'm hitting something. Oh, I'm hitting this. There we go. Okay, that's what I was hitting.
So the knockout has to be knocked out.
It has, that's right. And you can see here, we're straight through.
If only our bolts were a 1/2 inch longer.
Viola.
Viola.
They are a 1/2 inch long. That was this morning off to the local Fastenal.
Just about a 1/2 inch.
Just about a 1/2 inch, yeah, off to the local Fastenal. It's like, uh-oh. When we were dry fitting all this morning, it's like, that is not going to work.
What do you got there?
This is some thread locker, the blue, and got that on, and we'll just run these up, and there are 8 bolts, so this will give us a few minutes here to get all these in there.
That's all right. You can be edited out.
I know, we can make this seem as fast or as slow as we need to make it seem.
Yeah, somebody asked me why I didn't buy you a speed handle. And I'm like,
Didn't somebody send us one?
yeah, maybe.
I think so. You know what? I have never been able to use the thing.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's always in the way. It's
Yeah.
because it's got that big that U in it, and we're usually working in tight areas. I do appreciate him sending it to us though, and that was back when we were at our at the garage, back in the old shop, at the house.
Big debate on LinkedIn this week about EVs being maintenance free, and God, they were just celebrating it. You know,
Maintenance free?
Every car we have, about every time we pull it in to take a look at something, we go through the whole car and we always find stuff.
There's always
This is a
something.
myth.
Yeah, there's always something.
There's no maintenance free.
No.
I'll say this, it's clean and easy to work on.
Yes,
It's much simpler than a regular ICE car.
right. But
I
as
mean,
far as
the
maintenance
battery
free,
connections, we can drop a motor in an hour around here unless it's buried in a bunch of stuff. Most of our cars, we can drop one in an hour. So it's a different thing, and there's not as many filters and
right, stuff to deal with.
fluids and stuff, but we have liquid cooling and brake systems and
Yeah, we still have plenty of stuff to deal with. I mean, it's not nearly as complex, but there are things to deal with.
fans that kind of rattle and cigarette lighters that go out. I mean, it's a Pollyanna child mind that would come up with this concept that there's no maintenance on an electric car.
Well, we can tell them
Yeah.
that there is. There's just the car maintenance stuff. Yeah.
It's easier, it's simpler, and it's cleaner,
Yeah,
but it's a car.
it's still a car. Yeah, it needs brakes.
Where did they get this idea? I think a lot of the components will last much longer than they would in. I would think these motors would last 4 times longer than a internal combustion engine. Changing the brushes, as we've demonstrated, every 100,000 miles.
Not that big a deal, yeah.
I don't think we'll have to drop the motor.
No.
In a lot of cases, in some perhaps, but just changing a motor, you change a motor in an internal combustion engine car, it's just something beyond belief. And to drop one of these, and anybody can almost just guess, taking it apart, label a few things, and know exactly how to put it back in and be good.
Yeah.
It's just common sense stuff.
Well, and labeling is a big one.
Labeling's a big deal.
Yeah, labeling's a
But
big
we
deal.
have more labeling issues and labeling, all the inputs from the ICE engine.
Right. Yeah, where all those sensors and things were before, yeah.
But they take maintenance.
Yeah, they do take maintenance.
I think the guys who build their own cars will find that it's easy, clean maintenance and much easier to maintain than a internal combustion engine car. Now you take a Volt with 103 multiprocessors in it, and I'm just thinking, here's some people that have an unlimited budget to hire engineers right out of college and let them go berserk.
Yeah, they can do whatever they want.
I mean, I gotta believe I can build that car without 103 microprocessors in it. It's just crazy. 10 million lines of code.
Yeah, you're right. They were going nuts doing that.
That's just
That's craziness.
Bizarre. So whether you'll be able to maintain your Nissan Leaf or your Volt, that's at home.
That's a different story.
Separate question.
Well, and there's still cars in there. I mean, I guess they're going to add, especially from the manufacturers, there's going to be some level of complexity. I mean, working on your car is not an option anymore. I guess whether it's electric or internal combustion.
Well, it is for us.
It is for us. That's the deal. Yeah, it is for us.
It's no problem. Most of the stuff I can find in
So more thread locker on these for the
5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah. Let me get this here for right now. Let's just put that there.
And if I can find it, Brian can usually fix it.
Yeah, if we can find it, that's right. Sometimes that's a problem, though. It's like, what? We need to do what? Take this off. It's a little squirrely. And I probably have one that'll fit better. Yeah. There we go. 9/16 fits a little bit better. So we'll put these up to attach our flex plate. Anything else on any of the blogs or anything this morning, or anything else
IBM
interesting?
has 2 new partners in their air battery.
Oh, really?
One of them is a Japanese company that makes separators, and one of them is sort of a chemical company that makes electrolytes.
Oh, really?
And, they've touted a $500 million crash program to make a lithium air battery. I'm starting to take on the belief system.
That this may actually happen, huh?
What they're actually doing is using carbon as the oxygen collector or cathode. The cathode is really oxygen. And they wick the oxygen into the second electrolyte using carbon. That the bottom half of the carbon is in the electrolyte bath and the top half isn't. And then they have 2 separators, and they have a completely different electrolyte and separator to shield lithium metal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as the anode. And lithium metal, you just can't have it come in contact with really anything, but certainly not water or humidity or anything like that. And so it's kind of a double layer type situation meant to protect the lithium. And it extracts the oxygen from the air with the carbon, which is almost like an air filter.
Yeah,
the
right.
Oxygen can migrate right into that.
Yeah.
And at the bottom of the picture, oxygen finger sticking up, and the top half is in the air, and the bottom half is in the electrolyte.
Really?
And the oxygen can migrate through the carbon.
And that's what they're doing. You said they picked up a couple of new partners, huh?
That's the latest
Yeah.
thing. They're, kind of like me. By successive approximations, you learn
Yeah, at some
every time you
point.
build one, and you'll learn how. I think I've got another way next time, and but it's all about electrolytes and separators at this point. I think is the game. If they get the right combination there, it's over. And then you have probably, I would guess, the 10-time density claims. Now, let's show them what you're doing here.
Okay.
I'm making Brian do this because once it's on the car, we have to do this. Down here, we have a hole and a hog out. That's really our only access to get the bolts in to
the torque converter.
To the torque converter.
Yeah,
so using that hole in the bottom and a flashlight, we should be able to line them up. Then you got to reach in.
And what I'm doing here is I'm just using a nut in place of the torque converter, just so that we can kind of test this thing and make sure that we're good.
But from out here, he could kind of get it started by hand, and then hopefully get a small ratchet on it at least,
and get it.
and torque it down. Is that going to work?
Yeah, it'll work. We'll make it work. We've also, remember, we hogged out the tranny too. That cutout. If we need to, we can swing these bolts down. I think. No?
That's not going to work.
We won't fit. Won't work anymore.
No, because when you swing it down, you would have to reach up underneath here with the bolt, and you don't have enough.
We don't
room
have that
behind the
flat
flex
one
plate
anymore. That's right. We don't have a flat plate anymore.
And so you have to use
to
that
do it
hole
from there. Okay.
And that's
We'll get it.
I don't want to hear about it later.
It's the only hole we got, and because we can't go any more into the bell.
Well,
I mean, it just lined up, so I'm sure that it'll be. I'm sure something will come up, and we'll get it done. Thank God we only have 3 bolts this time and not 6.
all right.
And then when we bring that around, we'll make sure that our sensor is clearing, and we are clearing our sensor over here.
If you recall, we went from 280-degree spaced magnets on the bolts.
Yes, right. We had 2 when we tested it on the bench.
Separated by 120 degrees.
Yeah.
As it turns out, I went back in the Silicon book. It does 1, 2, 3, 4, or 6 pulses.
Okay.
And so I think we can put one on each bolt.
Okay.
And
have 3 pulses.
And
That should be a little more accurate too, shouldn't it?
You know,
maybe?
it kind of makes a pulse coming and going, and so I think it'll wind up being 6 pulses that we'll have to do, but it might be 3.
Okay.
And that's kind of unusual that you have that to avail you. I was going through the book on the Silicon. It's quite nice. They have it has 3 inputs you can define, but they're set definitions. One of the definitions is throttle, and that's for a valet mode. So we can take a relay output from our JLD 404 meter and put it in that input, and the variable it lets you set is percent of throttle. And,
that's
so
our daughter mode or
the
whatever.
daughter mode or the limp mode is in decimal.
Oh,
We
cool.
can just enter, instead of me plugging resistors, trying
and
to,
stuff, yeah.
we can just plug in a percentage of throttle we want it to make maximum, and that's it.
How cool. Yeah,
Isn't that
because
cool?
we've done it before, but yeah, you're right, with resistors. Yeah, this way, cool. Yeah.
And they actually talk about the throttle position sensor as an input for throttle, and about the 2 signals and how they're often inverted.
How they're going
and
inverted,
everything we found.
Really?
But they really had it in the book. Their book's getting better.
Okay, cool.
And the start signal, we don't even need to use. We probably won't even use the idle. I'm thinking the ECU will set our idle. And all you need is 12-volt ignition, and a throttle signal really is the basics to run the Silicon 1 or Junior.
That's pretty cool.
And
That's not a
so
lot.
we may back off and not use their idle, and let the ECU idle it.
Right, because we are using the stock ECU, sure. Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it kind of is. And so you'll turn the key to start. The ECU should position the plate, and that should be taken as a throttle signal.
Okay.
And yeah, again, you have to wait this really kind of annoying 7 seconds. I'm kind of hoping that's gone in the coming.
We still got that second
software.
7-second delay.
But
That's right.
yeah, we use ignition, and then start is when the ECU would be setting the plate,
Okay.
And that has to be. You'll have to wait 7 seconds, and we'll have the lights from the Soliton
Okay.
in the driver's compartment to see that.
Okay. Cool.
So I think it'll work really well. This still looks beautiful.
Yeah, we're looking good, and we've added a 1/2-inch plate in here to get this issue here that we have with binding, the front end of the torque converter, and then we put the same torque flex plate on that will match up to the torque converter that we have, because our other one was flat. So I think that we're in pretty good shape. It just took a little bit this morning of a little more machining and taking it on and off and making sure everything cleared, but I think that we are in pretty good shape at this point.
All righty.
And there's our little plate in there, and we're looking good. And then we'll work. We'll have to bolt this thing up. I guess. What did you say? We have possibly a torque converter coming. Okay.
We do. I'm in agony over whether to use it now that I've ordered it, or stick with the stock.
Okay.
How do you feel about putting this all together and going for a drive, taking it all apart and switching the torque converter?
Yeah. Oops. I know that's the thing. It's like putting this all together. It's like
these little decisions,
and it's always something that's like it is buried that you can't get to without taking it all apart.
If it comes in time, if not, we'll go ahead and put this together and run it.
Okay.
We did get under today, and there ought to be some measurable way to do this, but I think they just eyeball it. You want your transmission tail and your drive line back to the differential to be a straight line. And we had jacked up the transmission a little bit, playing with
to get it out.
Yeah. And so Brian and I jacked around on it a little bit and got it back in a straight position. Now he's going to drop this in, I guess, without the torque converter entirely.
Yeah, because it's just
line up.
I was going to hook it up anyway. Yeah.
In the transmission.
Yep.
And with the cherry picker kind of in place, adjust this where this is an extension of the transmission, and mark his plates.
Right.
For matching with the little plates he made that go on the engine mounts, and then we're going to bolt that together and tack it with.
We're going to weld it, yeah, and then we'll pull it out, weld it.
Can we paint it
everything
black so it'll disappear?
We're going to paint it black so it can disappear.
All
Yes.
right, excellent.
Yep, that's our favorite.
That's my favorite part. I really don't like steel, but if we have to do it, a couple of coats of Rust-Oleum black would be
yeah, that's what we'll do.
Better.
Yeah.
And this should kind of you got so much plate here, it's kind of a heat sink for our motor.
Oh, yeah, didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a big plate. And we'll have to dry fit it again. I mean, I'm sure that, I'm sure we'll have to put it in and out a couple of times, so it's okay. I think it's only been in and out 4 at this point.
Okay, well, so I'm thinking 5 or 6 more.
And we should be pretty close, that's right.
Stay with us, it gets better.
We'll see ya.
Bringius Maximus Magnus.
Hail.
All
Hail Caesar. Hail Cheeser.
Bread and circuses.
We love bread and circuses.
I'm feeling pretty good today. This looks gorgeous. What happened?
Well, we finished up the brackets. We got it in yesterday. I think, in and out 3 or 4 times, making sure things cleared. Adjusted the brackets a little bit. This morning we set it in there, hung the motor, and tacked up our our brackets to our mounting plates on the side of the motor.
Dr. Charles.
Weinbreck. No, not Dr. Charles. God, Weinbreck. That was Priest. Charlie Priest.
Dr. Charles Priest, late of Scopus, Missouri.
Scopus, Missouri.
One of,
Scopus fame.
Sort of the booming megalopolis in the center of the state.
They still have a post office. I hear.
Turns out he can weld.
He can. He said that last time he thinks he welded was 1985.
I say he throws a fine bead.
He did. He did good. Yeah.
So what happened? So you have the motor positioned with the cherry picker.
With the cherry picker, let it hang here.
And our brackets are in two pieces.
Yes.
By the way, the original ones were just about an inch short, so we put those on the pile of stuff that's cut almost the right length.
That's right.
Cool. We'll use that later.
Yeah. And while I was at it yesterday, those were 4 inches wide. I made them 5 inches.
Made
so
them 5
just
inches wide.
beefed them up a little bit on the second iteration.
This is how it works, guys. There's not, this is how it works. So he makes 2 more of our little angled plates, and you have the big plate going down the side of the motor.
Right.
Which you had to cut out some more of to accommodate fins on the all-wheel drive unit.
Some power steering lines.
And
nuts
so
and bolts, just stuff like that.
So the motor sits lower than we had really pictured.
Yes. Yes.
And in fact, all our measuring, I think I decided there was 1.5 inches, and that looks like, maybe 1.5 inches.
Yeah,
2 inches.
yeah, 1.5 inches, 2
from our front
inches.
member to the reluctor ring. Recall that we actually had the motors put together without the fans.
That was a good call.
Imagine if we had not done that.
I know.
This wouldn't move.
It wouldn't fit, no.
If we sat on top of this member, our drive shaft line angle is hosed.
Crazy, yeah, we would have been, steep.
And there are a couple of power steering lines that go in the top. So to go in the top, these are compression fitting type thing. So it's got a little radius in it to go down into the thing.
Yeah.
And we're 1/4 inch off of that.
Yeah.
That's not really good. Our driveline angle, I don't think is 100%, but it's pretty close.
It's pretty close, and
it's a pickup truck. It has to vary.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
So in all things like this, it is better to be lucky than good.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause you can only measure so much.
But we did a lot of measuring.
Yeah, we did a lot of measuring.
We bailed on the internal fans, so we have to have these excess turbos. These are interesting devices. They'll put out about 435 cubic feet per minute at 12 volts. They're now advertising them at 24 volts. Apparently this motor will swing both ways.
Oh, really?
635.
Oh, Jesus.
And so we may
put a converter.
Put a converter in there or something. But it takes still like 10 amps. These are a non-trivial drain on our resource.
Yeah, they are.
Fortunately, we have a 76 kilowatt pack. But when you're moving a large mass with these 11-inch motors, I don't care what anybody tells you or how proud net gain is of those internal fans. It is my belief that you need to force air into that motor.
It needs a lot. These need a lot of air. Yeah.
Evnetics has actually forced the issue and burn up some motors because they've got the power to do it.
Yep.
And I'm convinced that you need Dominic Yumney.
I
With the
confuse
Porsche
him.
Cayenne?
Yeah, with the Porsche Cayenne. I confuse him with the fellow that works at Autoblog Green, the name.
He has a monstrosity of a mess of a build that he just went to the wrong guy. And they have replaced his burnout motor, but he has a gauge on it now. And he has to pull over and let his motor cool to keep from burning it up again, particularly on the freeway. I don't understand this exactly because he's got a manual transmission. And the last
you're right, he
I
does.
spoke with him, I said, Dominic, have you tried like going down the freeway in 3rd gear instead of 5th or 4th gear instead of 5th? I think, it sounds much nicer at low RPMs and stuff.
Yeah.
But
in an engine,
you've got more leverage
right
at the lower gears, and that motor will do 4,000 RPM, no problem.
No problem, yeah.
Unless he's doing 90 mile an hour. he should be able to drop that a gear and pump more air through
Pump
it.
more air through, yeah, with those internal fans. Yeah.
And have more leverage that reduces the current through the motor.
Yeah, it should keep it cooler.
You know, the next guys talk about having 300 amperes going through their motor on the freeway. I don't have a car that does that.
No.
And
No.
I think it's gearing, but it might perhaps be size. Anyway, so our motor mounts, let's get back to those. You had two pieces.
Yes.
And here was the theory. You position the motor as close as you could get to perfect.
Absolutely.
Slid in your new things and bolted them down in position.
Yes.
And then had a doctor,
Dr. Priest.
Dr. Priest lawyer, doctor,
Doctor.
tack weld a couple of spots, positioning those plates.
Exactly.
Positioning them exactly.
Yes.
And then you removed those units entirely
Yes.
and fully welded them.
Yes.
And then painted them black so they disappear.
Painted them black so they disappear. Actually, use gloss black
Gloss
this time.
black, just like the
use
motor.
some flat for primer and a couple of coats of gloss black on there.
Put them back in position and put the bolts. This is held by these two bolts, one for each motor in the side provided by NetGain.
Right.
But they're like half-inch bolts.
They're half-inch bolts, exactly. They're they're at every 90 degrees on each motor.
And that clamps a plate this long along, actually across the joint
Across
of the two
joint
motors.
of the motors. Yeah.
And I've got to say, I was worried about that being too flimsy. And in fact, we had an additional plate at one point.
We did.
And now that I see this thing in, I can rock the truck before I can move the motor.
Yeah.
This thing's in hard.
Yeah, I think it's a sound mounting system.
I can't tell you how delighted I am, and we've got the original General Motors, and they're really quite substantial.
Yeah, those mounts.
Motor mounts.
Yeah.
Now you did have to trim those twice.
We had to trim them twice, yeah, because we had to get
The
enough
11-inch motor
space.
was 11 and a quarter
11
inches.
and a quarter
And so
inches.
we barely fit in that way. We just clearing the steering fluid
the line, yeah.
Our transmission to drive shaft angle is just, I mean, it's straight, but you could, if you look at it a few minutes,
Yeah, it's
not exactly
probably
straight.
a degree or so off. Yeah, I mean,
And we
it's
have
off
an
a
inch and a half in the front.
of clearance in the front.
Well, outstanding. It with that brushed aluminum and that gloss black in my black and chrome car.
In the car, yeah, yeah.
This thing looks gorgeous. And height-wise, I was a little concerned as well. We've only got about, what, a foot
About a foot
to the hood?
Yeah, this thing's a monster.
You
Yeah,
got-
it's all
you
up
gotta
here.
love
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So we'll have two 435 cubic feet per minute or 650
Or 600,
cubic feet
yeah.
per minute blowers blowing air up our skirt while we're spinning. I love it. It looks great and it feels even better.
Yeah, it seems to be mounted solidly.
It seems to be mounted very solidly.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this is in there. We'll show some close-ups of your beautiful gloss black paintwork, but this looks factory, Brain.
It does look nice. I mean,
I
it
don't
took a
like
while.
steel in my car, but as
I
long
know.
as you put 2 coats of Rust-Oleum gloss.
Yeah, and a coat of flat for primer.
Okay, so you primered it with flat.
Yep.
And then
clean the
gloss.
metal real good.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Then maybe it won't rust until next year.
Right, at least maybe not so fast.
I'm still amazed at how much rust is in a 4-year-old vehicle
I know,
that's
isn't it
mostly been
something?
kept indoors and parked.
Yeah, it really is amazing. Just the environment just eats away at. I guess it's bathed in oxygen, huh?
$60,000 General Motors vehicle that begins rusting on the dealer floor.
It's deteriorating as it comes off of the factory.
I had a very interesting conversation from a guy who would lead me to believe that a good percentage of our viewership are bullshit artists.
Imagine that, guys.
Bullshit.
What have they been telling you?
You recall last week we had a video by Royce Wood
yeah.
about his 67 Cougar
Yep.
rust bucket that he
Yes.
is painstakingly grinding off all that rust.
I know.
He's going to have a very lightweight car, I predict.
That's right. It's perforated.
But he bought it right, and he's good at that. Apparently, he and his wife have had a family garage repair shop for 28 years.
Wow, okay.
He is an ASE certified Flavus Wavin Grand Poompa.
Yeah. Super tech.
Super tech. And he says General Motors is his bread and butter. That's what keeps him in business.
Really? They break down a lot?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And he seems
Yikes.
extraordinarily knowledgeable about the vehicle.
Oh, good. Okay.
The MAP sensor, that is your manifold pressure. The MAF sensor, that's your mass airflow
The airflow,
sensor.
yeah.
All this stuff we've been worrying about,
Yeah.
he said, does not have anything to do with shifting the transmission.
Oh, God. That's great.
He claims that the ECU is a much simpler device than we quite give it credit for.
Really? Okay.
And most of it, including the MAP, the MAF, the camshaft, all those oxygen sensors,
yeah, and
all
the
those
NOx
anti-knock
sensors.
sensors,
Yeah. Yeah.
is all devoted to minimizing fuel usage and minimizing emissions, and it almost all does it through the pulse width of the injection, the fuel injection.
Oh, really?
And that's the reason most vehicles are fuel injected, is to get minimum fuel, minimum emissions. And they do it, they actually control, they pulse each of these injectors. And the pulse width is how much fuel gets metered.
Based on all of those
And
criteria.
90% of that ECU, that's what it's about.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good then. That's great news. That is really good news. I don't have to deal with that.
The transmission
Yeah, because that's really what we're worried about is shifting, huh?
needs vehicle speed, which we have.
Yeah, we haven't messed with that at all, yeah.
The output shaft speed, which the transmission provides.
Which is in the transmission, okay.
Some interplay with engine temperature and our resistor on the engine coolant
Oh,
inlet
on that cooler,
sensor.
yeah, we played with that the other day, yeah.
It's a 250 ohm resistor. We're at 200 degrees, and that takes it out of the equation.
Just leave it at a constant, okay? Like it's warmed up and operating temperature, okay.
Yes, and throttle position signal, exactly what we've been doing.
And we did work on that. We'll be able to get that, yeah.
Is that, in fact, throttle position signal is simpler than we have made it.
Really? Okay.
Idle is fully closed, not at the rest position.
Oh.
That is the default on failure. The car does not shut down if you lost your accelerator.
Okay.
And went Toyota on them. It simply goes to a limp mode with that slightly open, and you can idle off the road or even idle home in a limp mode.
Okay, interesting.
The idle, which I thought we would be able to use, in that it would adjust by that throttle
With that
position signal,
yeah.
has, and we found it on the engine now, a bypass valve and solenoid that has a very small air inlet that it bypasses the throttle body entirely to adjust the idle.
Oh, okay.
It simply goes to the closed position and then meters air in through that solenoid to adjust the idle.
Okay, okay. Yeah, well, once you look at the engine, it makes sense that's what that is for. Yeah, okay.
Fully closed is the idle position.
Okay.
And so we're not really going to be able to use the ECU to idle the engine, because that's where we would calibrate the Soliton. And again, Martin Person, they won't let me enter a value.
Oh, that's right.
See, we could enter a value just below that, but we have to punch the button and calibrate.
Right, give it the fully open and closed.
And so we would be able to, let the ECU idle it, but we don't have that ability. And so we're going to have to go back to using the start signal,
using the controller
with the
signal.
controller to idle the engine.
Okay.
which right now is broken in the software. Sab, you promised me 6 weeks ago. I can't believe it's an issue. We're so slow, it can't possibly be a problem.
Can't take that long.
But maybe they've got some great stuff coming.
Maybe since they're in there fooling with the code, yeah.
Yes, I've been going through the Evnetics manual. We can use all 3 of our bolts with magnets on them, and that'll work fine with our TAC input.
Okay.
So a whole lot of this stuff is just falling away.
Good.
That throttle position signal will let us keep all our cruise control, everything. It'll just be fine.
That's right, because that was one of the things that we were concerned about. Yeah. Okay, great.
He says you're concerned with the load levelers. It's not to worry.
Once we crank it up, okay.
Yeah, you have to. And I looked in the book. It's an ignition relay that then applies the output of another ignition relay that's on a 40 amp circuit. It takes some current to run that compressor.
Yeah.
And level the load, which we don't need it as bad as we did when we didn't have an engine in there.
It's now it's a little better, but we're still sagging.
But we're still droopy drawers in the back.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be okay. And just one by one, I'm reminded when I think of all the sensor signals I've been devising a way to spoof, and then we don't need it in the car at all.
Don't need it at all.
And it all has to do with exhaust and fuel economy.
Yeah, just emissions and fuel economy, yeah.
There is $6,000 worth of electronics in here to do fuel economy and emissions.
Yeah, there probably is. That's amazing. Yeah, a lot of complexity.
It's incredible. As Brandon Hollinger said, the stuff I took out was infinitely more incomprehensible than the stuff I put in.
That's what stuff we're putting in, absolutely.
And when you take all this away, we need a couple of signals. Ignition 12 volt and a throttle position signal.
Isn't that amazing?
And we might get a little gain by putting a 12-cent resistor across the end of a 2-pin connector.
Right, to do that
to do the
temperature
engine control.
To let it think that it's at operating temperature, yeah.
And beyond that, X equals don't care. We don't need any of it.
We don't need it. Yeah, that's right.
And I have had Tom Alveri and Mark Yomack. They essentially have formed a little committee on our blog to assure me that the Cadillac will never work. And wishing me every failure possible.
Thanks, guys.
It's man, it feels great to have guys cheering for you. They have a whole litany of reasons why this car will never roll. And it's the motivation behind it is, why would they? I would either think they would be cheering for us, or don't care and are watching.
Just watching to see what happens.
Things on YouTube. Mikey bit his finger.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Yeah, we'd spray our cat with a water bottle. We can't find a cat.
Hairstyling videos, guys.
All kinds of good stuff.
Girls, it's
That's right.
There's a lot of things on there besides us.
Drunks doing crazy stuff. There's all kinds. Yeah, it's entertaining.
People falling down, cats dancing, squirt guns squirting on. It's just a circus out there, and we're just trying to convert a 8,000-pound car to electric drive. It's relatively a sideshow.
Yeah, that's right.
For a few thousand devotees, why they would. Poor Dan Friedrichsen wants me dead from lung cancer now. He's already praying over my ill health. So I'm some of this is just a little. I always said we really don't know a whole lot about our viewership. I've developed some tools to kind of learn. And I think we were better off.
We're better off not even thinking about it.
Yeah. No, actually, a lot of them are great.
We love you guys.
Many of them sent emails of condolence about Mom and so forth. If you were sending whiskey.
Exactly. If you're sending whiskey.
Yeah. So by far and away, we've got a great group of viewers and sort of similar in age and life, you know, to us, predictably enough, I guess.
Yes, yes.
And so, yeah, it's actually a privilege to have a few minutes of your time each week. So this is all working. What else were we? The sensors, the mounting. And so now our mounting is these 4 bolts. This part stays in, and we can just drop the motor, pull the 4 side bolts, put 4 side bolts in, and that's
Right, that's it.
the thing. So we
Yeah.
still got the 2 bolts on top. We can strap to yank it out of there.
Yes.
I have not received my Patsy 1,400-pound torque converter.
Our 1400 RPM lockup converter?
And
Yeah.
he, Royce thought that was an excellent idea.
Oh.
The transmission will run much cooler, much more efficiently. Stall is just as I described it. Lockup occurs only in 2nd gear and above,
Okay.
and at a certain mile per hour and above. And we can probably tune that in the with the HP tuners
In the prom?
in
Okay.
the ECU.
Okay.
But I thought that perhaps when it reached stall and you had 0 relative motion between the
Right.
they were both turning no relative
To each other, yeah, the same
That's
RPM.
when it locked up. He said, no, it's much simpler than that. It's just a mile per hour in 2nd gear.
Okay. Okay.
And
Wow.
from there on up, this is 100% efficient. It's just a mechanical link.
Okay.
It's a clutch,
It's a
actually,
clutch,
that's powered by hydraulic pressure
Yeah.
inside that shaft
Yeah.
in the torque converter.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And that a 1,400-pound would be much better than the 2,000 or 2,200 that we probably got.
Okay. Okay.
And that's will dramatically lower. He said that's an excellent technique for if you're towing to keep the temperature of the
change the
transmission
torque
down. Is
converter.
to go if you're towing big loads, go to a lower torque converter.
Okay.
And your transmission will run much cooler and much better.
Okay.
And so actually this did have the tow package on it, but it didn't have a lower torque converter. And it does advise you actually I get a readout of transmission temperature.
Oh. Okay.
And
okay.
it starts to hit that pretty hard above about 225 degrees Fahrenheit transmission temperature.
Okay. Okay. Well,
And
cool.
so-
Well,
and
that's
that
good then.
explains the 2 coolers.
Yes.
But we are going to wait on the Pat-C.
Okay.
Pull this back out and put that torque converter in.
Yeah. Okay.
And drop this back in, and then we'll be ready to start building this up.
Okay. Sounds good.
And so I think it is worthwhile. By the way, I was unable to give Blake $1,500. His lowest value that he could get me on the 6L80 was $1,400, and that was on a what looks like a factory torque converter. They call it a balloon instead of his nice billet one, and it was $399.
Oh, really? For our torque converter?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
good deal.
Not even a lot of money. They
Yeah.
take PayPal, and again, Blake and the guys at it's like parts and automotive transmission, but they're really torque converters.
Okay.
We put the link up last week.
Yes.
And we should have that in a few days and be able to actually get this up and running a bit and at least spin it and make sure everything is non-binding.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I guess we will mount our accessories on the front. And well, really the next step is to start giving some thought, complicated by our excess turbos.
I know it's going to make it a big platform.
As to how we put in the dual solitons, which are
controllers.
physically quite large and quite heavy.
Yeah,
I
they
think
are.
they're 33 pounds piece.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do another infomercial on the Soliton. We have decided to carry them. I put up the Soliton 1 today on the store. This is really a remarkable device. You know, you can wire that thing up and run it on 2 wires.
Really?
12-volt ignition and a 0 to 5-volt throttle, and it'll run a
And
DC
that's
motor
it.
all day.
Wow.
And the rest of it is frills. but really neat frills. And we're going to show you how to do some stuff. We're going to use our JLD 404 output to put it in daughter mode and restrict the percentage of throttle. I'm even going to try to do a battery monitoring output that will drive our fuel gauges in our ECU and spoof that sensor. And so it's got some very flexible inputs and outputs. You know, I kind of went through the list of why someone would want one of these. They're just really simple. Martin Person software is the best in the game. I'm convinced at this point.
Yeah, it is good software.
And of course, we'd like more features, Martin.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but it is good software.
Including the ones you eradicated in 1.51.
The ones that you forgot to put back in.
No, you don't have to fool with serial ports. It's an Ethernet.
Right.
You don't have to really fool with software. You use a browser.
Right.
It's got one screen to configure. There's a second one that said you did.
Said you
Do
did
want to
it.
go back to the one screen?
That's right.
Fair enough.
That's right. Are you done?
Yeah, it's just a real simple configuration, a real simple wire up. And a lot of flexibility with 3 user-defined inputs. They're not really there. You pick them off a pick list, but you can do a lot of stuff with them. And in addition to brake and tachometer, you have 3 inputs and 3 outputs that you can use to drive gauges, sensors, lights, based on a lot of things: motor voltage, motor current, you know, total power. I mean, you get a pick list of all the stuff you can do with it. So it's very flexible. But if you don't want to fool with that, if you hook up 12-volt ignition and a 0 to 5-volt throttle, you're turning a motor.
That's cool. Yeah, you can.
I mean, 2 wires.
Yeah, that is.
I mean,
that
you
is
have
cool.
your 2 cables to the
battery and off to the motor.
and the 2 to the motor.
Yeah,
those are big cables and 2 little wires. This thing runs. It does exactly what a PWM chopper controller is supposed to do. That is most basic.
And that's really cool. If you're not driving gauges, doing things, it shouldn't be a big deal to install a controller and configure it. Yeah,
I don't really, in building an EV, want a hairball or a rat's nest or a snot ball or whatever you call it.
Or a controller to run your controller.
Exactly. And
it's like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's a controller to run your controller.
Yeah, that's all you need, another controller to run the controller.
So we can request features all we want. They did a brilliant job. It's on a massive nickel-coated aluminum heatsink.
Yeah, that heatsink is huge.
It's got fans, and it's got liquid cooling. This thing is a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just overbuilt as hell.
Yeah.
And
that's good news. Yeah.
I think this is exactly the right device for this twin motor configuration, and I'm trying to beat up George so you don't have to go to Jim Husted. Hope he isn't having headaches and give him $20,000 to make a dual motor.
To marry these together.
Why can't we get NetGain to just get Warfield to do them on a shaft?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
All these guys love my suggestions. It always puts them back 3 weeks while they study it and scratch their head and try to figure out.
Keeps them busy, huh?
I'm telling you, I think it's going to get to be a gig for heavier vehicles. 11-inch probably isn't enough for some of these big cars.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be 70 plus
never mind
pounds.
The racing thing. Just this one, with people in it, you could be hauling around 8,000 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel a lot better. An 11-inch motor with that 6L ADE, it'll probably drive it. I don't want to be replacing the motor.
Right. Yeah, this will be much more gentler on our equipment. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to be sufficiently overbuilt with 2 of those massive heat sink controllers. And yeah, they don't need liquid cooling. Why do I want them not to have it?
Right.
It's not that much. And they've actually adopted my mantra that things last longer. They're claiming at Avnetics that you get more component life for every 10 degrees Celsius of lowered temperature.
That you lower it.
I don't know how they calculated that, but that's the song I've been singing.
Yeah.
If you can keep the temperature down, the stuff will just last longer.
It'll last longer, yeah.
And so there you go. Brain, great job of fitment, as always. You're the king. And Thank Charlie Priest.
Yeah,
for
Charlie.
his welding
Charlie
work.
was a
That
big help,
looks
'cause that's
like a
something
great bead.
that I can't do as well.
And but I think it's just gorgeous.
Well, thanks.
And it feels so solid. It's
is.
like factory.
It is. It is
And
solid.
I think by using those rubber factory mounts, we're going to be vibration free. That won't take the howl of those blowers out of my ears, but maybe a little sound deadening under the hood, and we'll.
Yeah, and I think it's got pretty good sound. We'll have to see what it sounds like. Yeah.
And so I'm starting to get excited. This is breaking down to pretty simple stuff, and we could be rolling here in a month or 6 weeks.
Yeah. We could be rolling pretty soon. We're gonna need
Still have some environmentals on the AC and the heater.
We're going to need another set of 2 good jack stands, because now we have all-wheel drive. We're going to have all 4 wheels up in the air when we test it.
I have a surprise component that I've pretty much decided to put in the vehicle, and trust me, not a one of you has ever seen one or have one in your car.
Okay.
And I may be a madman, but we're going to try it, I think, on this vehiel if I've just physically got room.
Okay. All right.
So that's,
Hey, we'll try anything. We don't know any better.
Well, if this goes any better, I'm going to look for ways to mess us up.
There you go.
I think I've got one.
You think you got one? All right.
That could be pretty good. Let me talk about one other thing I'm working on.
All righty.
Let me grab it, and I'll be right back in the picture. Everything about this vehicle is big, and unnaturally so. This is a little project I'm working on right now.
I know that thing's a monster. It's a Frankenstein.
You recall our JLD 1404. This is their 1500 amp 75 millivolt shunt.
Oh, okay.
And this we refer to as a ferrous Shawmut fuse, but this one's a little bigger than most.
That's a big
It's
fuse.
an A50QS 1200-4. And this would probably do between 2,500 and 3,000 amps for a few seconds.
Okay.
This is what you call a semiconductor fuse. It doesn't hit 1,200 and blow. It has a time curve where it'll do, 2,400 for 10 seconds, 1,200 pretty much continuously.
Okay.
And so it's a semiconductor fuse. This is just physically a lot larger than we're used to doing them. I polished off the tabs, bolted it to the shunt. I'm going to mount that in a massive resin insulator.
Resin base.
and somehow get that in our battery box back there, again, to provide a fuse, which you do want to have in your
somewhere
pack,
in the pack.
and a way of measuring current that will go up. Conceivably, we could draw 2,000 amps from this pack. And that's because each soliton will do 1,000 amps.
Right.
Each of the 11-inch motors will do 1,000 amps. And in fact, our batteries will do 2,000 amps.
Yeah.
We have 400 amp hour cells that I've tested Thunder Skies up to about 8C.
Okay, yeah, so no problem doing 2,000
So those
amps.
400 could conceivably do 3,200 amps for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
With some pretty significant sag. At 2,000 amps, that's 5C.
Right.
That's not even breathing
Yeah, that
hard.
should keep our voltage up and should be nice. Yeah, we should get a lot of power.
So the problem with this vehicle is we could do 2,000 amps through some of these components, and that's a lot of current.
Yeah.
And so you wind up with kind of massive fuses and
I know,
shunts,
look at
and
that
just
thing.
things are physically
Yeah, they're just
bigger
all
and
bigger.
heavier
Yeah.
than we're accustomed to. But that's one of the things I've been working on. I'm trying to devise a disconnect that would work for 2,000 amps, not be dangerous, and me be able to get to it from the passenger compartment. Nothing is really suggesting itself. I may have to build this out of copper bar stock and encase it in resin so I can put my hand on it.
Yeah,
Kind of
Like the big-
kind of like some of the drag guys do. No,
Yeah.
it would be a bar that sticks in a clamp on each end, and you got to grab it and yank.
and yank it. Yeah.
But it's kind of important to have a disconnect.
Yeah. Well, we need it for maintenance. We need it for a lot of different things. Yeah.
And just like this, it's going to have to be big.
Yeah. It'll be massive.
Or we've built in another failure point.
Yeah.
This is when you start adding these functions, you're also adding a failure point. This is why I think you're going to find. I was in a discussion on LinkedIn with a pompous man from who had purported to work with OEMs. I think he's unemployed right now, and appropriately so. But he was talking about electric vehicles being no maintenance. Let's bust this myth right now. It's a car. It has maintenance. We don't take a look at any of these without doing some work on them.
Right. There's always something that we have
There's
to
always
do.
something.
There's always something.
It is a car. Now, it's a lot simpler, cleaner, easier
Yeah.
maintenance on an electric car, but we have liquid cooling, and I mean, we've got all this stuff.
We've blown rear axle seals on the Porsches.
Yes,
We've had,
it's,
we had the bearings that we tried
Yes,
we
we
did
tried the
that.
ceramic
We tried the ceramic
bearings.
bearings and kind of broke those.
Yeah, so some of it's self-inflicted, but
but it's still it's still failures.
But these are relatively simple devices, and we build them to be maintained because we have to.
Mm-hmm.
A Chevy Volt with 103 microprocessors and 10 million lines of code. How are you going to fix that yourself?
You're not.
Now, you want to know what's really going on under the blankets?
Yeah.
GM's dealer network is in revolt.
Oh, really?
It's a mutiny.
Really?
They don't want to sell these cars. Why? First, GM is requiring them to purchase $1 gazillion worth of test equipment to maintain the cars.
That would make sense, yeah.
Then they have to go to school, and they'll have one employee out of a dozen,
that's
who's
got the
even
certification.
qualified to work on
Yeah.
it. And if then no cars come in because there's hardly been sold for a year.
Yeah, if you've sold
and
two
this
of
guy's
them,
sitting
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Now in comes a car and they can't figure out how to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Is
an
this
issue.
anything a dealer wants?
Nope, they don't want a part of it.
This is part. They're in mutiny.
Wow.
They're in open revolt over the Volt.
Over the Volt.
And I don't know who's going to maintain this car. I don't know that
Yeah.
you'll be able to get it worked on anywhere. And I assure you, the odds of you being able to troubleshoot that monstrosity are approximately zero.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
I would not be able to change the oil on it.
Yeah, I mean, and who would want to? I mean, what a nightmare.
And so maintainability is an issue. Again, we're going to have a little problem with this with stuff piled on top of it. But I'm not putting a big sled of batteries on top here, blocking myself from being able to
completely
reach the
locked
stuff.
out of everything, yeah.
If we pull the controllers, we pull 4 bolts, and that motor pops right back out of that thing.
Yeah.
And
we need to have that simple, that we can just pull
and
the whole
be
thing out.
thinking about that when you're doing your build, because it's kind of on you to.
You're the one that has to do it.
And odd things do occur. Not everything is a glowing success, as your installation is here.
Yeah.
No, I heard from a guy the other day, had 120 miles on his car and burned up his brushes. Everybody's still trying to figure out why, but that's what originally set me off on the brush thing.
Right.
And why we changed brushes in here with Tom
we did.
Brunke and that.
Yeah, we did change the brushes.
You can have a lot of work putting all this together and then find out you have to take it all apart. And the vendor is going to give you free parts.
Right.
They're bellying up. It's okay. Yeah, we'll cover it.
Yeah, right. We'll cover it.
Yeah.
But what a lot of work, though. Yeah.
With about another, 3 months to take this thing back apart, what do I do?
Yeah. Yeah. Take the front end off.
And so there you are. And this is not going to be an easy one. It's going to like a mini. Whole front clip has to come off to get to it.
Yep.
And but it could be done, and it's not like an engine pull with a gasoline engine.
Right. There's a lot of stuff in that.
It's still a lot less than that.
Right.
And it's clean. So it's lower maintenance, cleaner maintenance, and easier to understand on the DIY cars.
Yes. Right.
None of that applies to a Leaf or a Volt. I don't know what you're going to do. I hope it's under warranty forever.
Yeah. Take it to
and
the
then
dealer.
you have a really good dealer because
they might not be qualified.
I don't.
Yeah, you get all that
I
range.
don't know
get it out
what
of
all
town,
you
then what?
got to do to be qualified unless they have some pretty handsome test equipment
But then
that
you got to
can
buy
actually
it. Yeah.
do it. And then the problem with that is it tends to be $100,000.
Yeah, to sell a few cars.
Yeah. So.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, so yeah, I kind of see why the Nissan's got pretty good control of their dealers, but GM is historically those are all independent franchises, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, they've been doing things a certain way for years and years.
and they're in mutiny.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
It makes sense, hearing that tale. Yeah. Wow.
So, but that's where we're at. We're going to pursue this, and I think I'm now seeing not just a functional vehicle, but this thing's going to be gorgeous.
I think
That
it's gonna
black
look great,
motor
yeah.
and those solitons in here.
Yeah.
This is going to look
It's going to look nice.
like $1 million.
Yeah.
Which I hope it's less than that.
Just a little bit less than that.
Somewhat. Stay with us. The adventure continues.
That's right. Be there.
Brinius Magnus Maximus.
Yes. Hail Caesar. Live long and prosper. Something like that.
Nanu.
Nanu. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you got going here, buddy?
Well, we had our new torque converter showed up.
It doesn't look that new.
No, it looks like it's painted black. I guess it's special, huh?
It's a reman or something.
It might be, yeah.
This is from Performance Torque Converters.
Okay.
$399.99.
Yeah.
Which somehow cost me $434.
Shipping, I guess.
From China. Yeah.
Yeah, from China. That's right.
Yeah.
Direct from China. Well, at least it got here.
It's heavy.
Yeah, it is heavy.
Pull off that yellow cap. Let's see how it compares with our stock. It's black instead of silver. The truck is black and silver, so I guess it doesn't matter much.
Yeah.
We're not going to see it a whole lot.
No, but it will disappear.
It'll disappear since it's painted black.
Yeah.
This one has a 1400 RPM stall speed.
Okay.
And this one has a probably a 2000 or 2200. Royce Wood is advising us on these matters these days. He said that the lockup is in second gear only.
Okay.
You go in first gear.
And it always will slip a little, huh?
Well, up to 1400 RPM.
Okay.
And then in second gear, above about 22 miles an hour, a hydraulic clutch. They basically pressurize the torque converter, and it goes into lockup. There's a little clutch that locks it up. By stalling at a lower speed, we take out a lot of the friction and heat that this transmission generates.
Okay.
And if nothing else, it's more efficient and has less heat.
Okay.
But he agrees that it would be a dramatic move in being further down into the power band of the electric motors.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think it was worth a couple days wait to get this thing in, and that was really all it took was a couple days.
Yeah,
it wasn't bad.
Close to a week.
Yeah.
Well, we got.
I think by the time we got the deal
Friday.
done and everything, got here by Friday. Yeah.
So we're ready to put it in. I guess I think that will be a good move, and we'll get our stall speed down. It's not precise, around 1400 RPM.
But we know we've moved it down anyway.
Yes, we have.
800 RPM. Yeah, good.
They look reasonably close.
Yeah.
To my untrained eye, and so.
And this one's been balanced, it looks like, so we're good. Yeah.
So
a couple little balancing things here. This one had one or two on this side too.
So what are we going to do to put it in?
Well, we're going to have to get in there. The problem with this is I've heard that this makes my butt look big. So, well, bear with me, because it's going to be all ass.
All ass. Well, somebody told me this week. Cash, ass, or grass. Nobody rides for free, huh?
I sent you that.
Was that you?
Yeah. Cash, ass, or grass. Nobody rides for free.
I think you popped
There we
it
go.
in.
That's the thump. Once you
That's
get
the
that,
thunk?
once you get that thunk, yeah, then we're buried on the.
It took Harbor long to describe how you had to do that carefully than it did for you to do it.
Just do it, yeah. And I guess what that means is now we're all the way against the pump housing, and once we get it all together, we pull it out toward the flex plate, and that'll give us a little bit of room to get the tranny in.
And hopefully with our new adapter and our proper flex plate, this will all go right in there.
Yeah.
What's our next step?
We just go ahead and lower the motor in.
You're going to put your plates in after the motor, or is that the game plan?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pop them in after them. You know what I need to do too? I need to raise the tranny a little, get a little better angle, and then we'll drop it later.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll jack that up, and I'll jack the motor up.
Okay. We'll get this out of here. Bye-bye, old torque converter. That should make it a little easier to deal with.
It just about don't go between.
Yeah, it will.
I know.
Yeah, let me get
Done
this
it.
one. There you go. Okay. Let me.
We'll do some jacking,
Yeah.
which
up there.
I'm good at.
You're the master jacker.
Given the name.
That's right. It fits, huh?
Yeah. And slide it in there.
Let me just
How
check
am I
these
doing?
caddies. Let me get these. There we go. Wiring harness out of there. Yeah, you're doing fine. Go ahead and shoot it in a little more.
A little more.
A little more.
Let her down a
Yeah,
little.
yeah, you can. It'll probably start to go forward a little anyway when you let it down.
Let me shut it a little.
There we go. Okay. You can drop it about an inch or so. Now, that's good right there. Let's see if we can get those pins aligned. Actually, I'm going to drop the tranny a little.
I'm going to raise it up a
You
little.
know, go ahead and leave it. I'm going to drop the tranny just to get a better angle, but it's just needs about a half an inch.
This is just sort of by successive approximations.
Yeah, it really is. Let me drop it a little more, I think.
How about your leveler? I think we can lower the back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see where the hole is. Okay. Actually, I think I can drop the tram some more. And go ahead and just pick it up maybe a half an inch. Oh, there we go. Good. Keep going. A little more. A little tiny bit more. A little more. That's probably just tiny bit. One little. Yeah, let's try right there. See if I can.
Well, that hole it
Grab
needs to
that
come up.
beast, yeah.
Raise it.
Let me see. I actually may have located it. Just once it's in that one pin, you can. Yeah, I got it. See if I can get a couple of bolts in there.
Well, that popped right in.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
Oops.
Oop, fumble.
You rickardized that.
Yeah. Probably is where we can't reach it. I've got that magnet on the cart too, if you see it.
Well, I heard it.
Yeah, you know where it may have gone inside that blue, stand, you know, in there. I can't see it.
Well, I'm down on the floor. We're going to need a cherry picker to get me back up.
Can you?
I don't see it.
Okay, I'll find it. All right, let's see what we got here. Yeah. There you go. Okay. I bet I could find another one. I bet this is one right here. Okay. That one I'm not going to get yet. Okay. Let's go ahead and raise this whole thing up, Jack.
Raising.
There we go.
Good. I'm glad to get that reluctor ring off that cross member.
Yeah.
It's just in the cardboard.
Yeah, it was just, I think it's just on the cardboard. All right, let me drop this in. Okay, there's that one.
Look at me pretending like I can do something. Mine fell right in. I think
Did it?
we're a
Yeah.
little off, but that's okay. These bolts will.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start tightening stuff up a little bit.
Yeah, your holes
Yeah, they're off a little, huh?
are forward,
Yeah. And let's see why.
and we need to
Oh, I need to lift the trans up.
tighten up to the transmission a little bit. I think is part of it.
Let's go ahead and raise the whole thing, I think, and we'll.
Raise it.
Yeah. Yeah, just keep raising it for a minute, then we'll get her. Okay.
Yeah, that's the question is our
Whoop.
shaft in that torque converter.
It shouldn't be. We'll pull it up later.
Huh?
We'll pull it up later.
Oh,
It should
okay.
be back.
Should be back. Okay.
Yeah, it should be back. Maybe I need to, yeah, see it tighten everything up. Let's see what we got.
Well, if it
Yeah,
goes to
I think-
fighting you, don't force it.
No, I think what I
If
need
you
to,
can't achieve a precision fit with a 3-pound sledge, don't force
don't
it.
force it.
So, we got her bolted up,
Yeah, we do.
and our thing wouldn't turn.
No, our shaft wouldn't turn.
Do we know why that is?
It's got to be that it was binding on that plate on the cup, excuse me, for the torque converter. Because when we kind of changed that angle in there, I
What we
did
was kind
hear a
of
pop.
waggle the engine transmission around a little bit, and with it all kind of loose. And you heard something?
I did, and it was definitely a torque converter. It was a hollow little popping sound, and it probably was the torque converter seated. It must have been at a strange angle, and it just wouldn't seat in that cup in the shaft.
So it was kind of like a hydraulic pump bursting?
Probably, yeah. Made that same tinny kind of hollow sound.
Yeah. Well, we're going to lose the cherry picker. Brian's mounting system is working well. We thought that was off, and again, it's sort of the angle you have it.
Yeah, it's the angle.
We raised it up a half an inch, and it all of a sudden everything came into place.
Everything got better, yeah. Yeah, that made a big difference. But it seems like what we were worried about was that we went and put that half-inch spacer in there and that it wasn't enough. And it seems like we're okay.
But by just.
By just a little bit.
The fun part, I think, is going to be getting this thing up in the air and trying to get those little bolts with the magnets in to hook up the flex plate to the torque converter. Now, if those are off, well, we got a problem.
Yeah.
But I like our motor mount system. What gauge? Somebody asked me what gauge we were using here. This is like 12 gauge.
You know, I don't know the steel gauges.
Looks like 1/8 of an inch full.
I think it's, yeah, I mean, that's what I've been calling it, or when I measured it, I think it was 1/8 of an inch. And I think that it was, yeah, or 3/16 maybe? Maybe 3/16, but I don't know my steel gauges.
Well, it's doing the job. Of course, it lays along the motor, bolted in 2 places. You got it welded to these plates, which are now bolted to rubber. But it sure seems solid to me. This thing's in there. I can shake the truck with it, if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think we're in, yeah, that's right, exactly. If you want to,
While he's trying to put a nut on, I'm
if you want to
shaking
shake the truck, what do you say? What do you, quit helping. Quit that.
Are you trying to help
That's
me?
right, quit that.
Holzhauser,
That's right, hold still, damn it.
you step back 2 steps.
That's right, quit wiggling around.
What for? Just as kind of a beauty contest. I wanna
Just
see
like,
the
that's right.
full you.
That's right, my near vision's a little bit off.
Yeah. It's tough for me to see you with you in my face.
Are we still spinning? Because now we're tight.
We are still spinning.
Okay.
Now, I find it heavy, but I don't hear any noises. And it is a 4-inch shaft to 11-inch armatures.
Yeah.
Well, they're not 11 inches, but 2 armatures for 11-inch motor. All right.
Can you hear me, Jack?
Let me try to get them anchored here. I'm going to back out. We're underneath. I'm facing aft along the vehicle. If you look up there, there is a small access hole just to the left of where our screen comes together, which we've got loose for this purpose. And Brano has, in about 10 seconds, managed, if you look in this hole, managed to line up the hole on our index, our flex plate, and threads on the torque converter. I see threads.
Yeah, I see threads.
I see thread people.
I see thread people.
I see them all the time.
I see them all the time.
And so the question is, can we get one of our magic bolts with our magic magnet head?
Yeah, we've got our magnets on the end of, can you see those?
We can.
There, up there. See, opposing forces, yes.
Oh,
Oh, yes. The one nice thing is when you put it inside of the socket, it stays there.
Well, that's
It works better.
stay there. We want it to stay in the transmission.
Works
right?
better than bubble gum. Well, once I get it started, we should be okay.
Yeah, after you get the thread started, then perhaps.
Yeah, let's see.
Let's see if old Renoramo can, with a socket and a extension, kind of get it fingered in there and started, and appropriately cross-threaded.
Yeah, that's always the issue.
See, without the starter access hole, we're left with the hole. Jim Newstead had cut us, and we had to rehog out the end bell of the motor and then our new adapter plate spacer. And it could be the right size hole,
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
But I think if I can get a video camera and a light burning into the back of Brain's head, he'll be able to.
Yeah, then I'll be able to see. Eventually, you'll be able to see right through my head if I went sideways.
He's promised me all along it would be enough room.
And it always has been, but
Has been on the bench.
oh, you know what? Let me use a smaller socket. That might be what I'm doing, this long socket. I guess I'll explain it to him. Okay.
Our hole wasn't quite big enough to get for us to be able to get our thing started.
Yeah, I don't know if it was off of this torque converter, if the bolt circle's a little different or something, but man, I could not get it straight in. Let me put
So
some.
we've hogged it out with our little air tool burr thing. What is that thing, right?
You know, it really is just a little rotary rasp. You know, just a little cutter. They get kind of gummed up. They don't last very long with aluminum. But we needed to get that hole a little bit, just a little tiny bit open. I'm going to put some Loctite on there. And what has happened to everything else? I'm going to be lost here. I'm probably burning up video. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to put a 90 degree on here and see if we can get this started. Got some Loctite on it. Just some blue. And we also took a little bit off of our, ground a little bit off of our
socket.
15 millimeter, yeah, just to give us as much room as we can.
And so these are the 3 bolts that connect the flex plate to the torque converter. I'm amazed that there's just 3 of them. Well, we had 6 in the other tranny, didn't we?
Yeah, I
guess they're hardened bolts, but
okay, so we have enough room now. We got the last one in, and I got 2 in. This is the last one. I had it tightened, and I couldn't get to the thread, so I had to go back and loosen the other 2 up. Silly me. But we are Loctited and torquing down the torque converter bolts now. We'll go back and tighten the other 2. Okay, and we'll just...
And that turns pretty easily under there.
Oh yeah, it's turning really, I would say, freely. And there's our other one. And part of it, it's funny, the magnet, those little magnets are so strong that it feels like you're on the bolt when you're not. Okay, and we got one more.
There it is.
There you go. And this is number 3. Okay.
We're hooked up.
Well, an afternoon of fun, huh? At EVTV.
No kidding. You
Hogging
sure know
things
how to-
out, making little tools.
You sure know how to shoot a Friday. How are we going to do a video?
Oh, God. Thank God we've been busy all week. So we have our motor in. We're mounted up. We got our torque converter on. We're moving, spinning freely, which we were not doing before, so that our plate was, we needed to do it. We needed to put about a ½ an inch, 3/8 to ½ an inch in there. And we are now, I can do it by hand. So I would say that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. All right.
All righty. Okay.
Randomly lost a couple of specks of black paint off my motor. Can you explain this?
They just got up and just ran off. They bolted for the door. Oh man, we've been at it.
We have been. If any of you imagine that we simply think this thing up and it all bolts in for us and you have to struggle getting them in, this thing's fought us every step of the way.
It has. Or that we hire people to do this. We actually do the work.
We ground off parts of the engine mounts. We hogged out the hole.
That access hole for the
to hook
bolt.
the thing up. We got it all bolted up and wouldn't turn, and we bullwhipped the engine and transmission.
Yeah.
And
we're good
put
now.
a snake in it, and it dropped into place,
Yep.
and it turns well now.
Yeah, we're hooked up into
It's
the torque
very
converter.
stably mounted. But I can't think of anything that could have gone wrong that didn't, including I think we've smashed and crimped one of our
did.
lines.
We did one of
to
the inlet or outlet power steering line, yeah.
on the power steering, so we're going to have to fit that.
Yeah.
But I think
Luckily,
we can
just
do
right
that
here.
without
Oh yeah, without taking it
even
apart.
raising the motor. I think we can drop the steering
Yeah.
thing if we have to get room. But it almost looks like you could fit it in there.
Yeah, yep.
And so we'll get one of those on order. We have our 1400 RPM
We do our
torque converter from Performance Torque Converters. This has been this project, my goodness, it's going on. We did it in kind of 2 phases or 3 phases. One was the battery
box, yeah.
One was having the motor done with Jim Houston and putting it on the bench and deciding on the transmission and so forth. In this phase, we actually mount the engine and connect it to the transmission.
Yeah, the motors are in. Yep.
And that's kind of a successful evolution. Although, as I say, it's a series of small problem-solving exercises.
Yeah, and we
and
get a
they're-
lot of small problems.
And there's a burr tool the right size for everything.
That's right, exactly. Thank God things fit, and then we've got the tools. Yeah, but yeah, we do exercise small problems frequently.
Yes. There was no CAD program and brilliant idea and then bolted in
Yeah, right.
nicely.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen around here. It might help if we knew anything about automobiles.
Yeah, it would help, especially this type.
I've been talking to Royce Wood. He appears to know something about them.
Yeah.
That would be so handy.
Oh, I know. Yeah, having somebody to ask a question. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he seems to be pretty good.
Just if we knew anything about cars.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But the point made from the beginning is, can a 54-year-old guy working half days, falling down drunk, build an electric car? Not can General Motors.
That's right, yeah.
Mr. Goodwrench. I was not given to changing my own oil. I did fool around a little bit with these old MGs, but they're almost like from another age. It's not like a car. I mean, these are like from the 30s and 40s and stuff.
Yeah.
SU carburetors.
Except they're
and
carburetors,
stuff.
yeah.
So it's more art than mechanics.
Yes.
This is a modern vehicle with all the accoutrements, and we're struggling here. But if you note, we get a good result in the end. This is a fabulous pair of 11s mounted very securely, I would say, ridiculously, in the Cadillac Escalade, perfectly matched up and aligned with the existing 6L80E transmission and torque converter. So we got a good result, but the process is cut and fit and take it back out and cut and fit again.
Yeah.
It's not, do not be misled by the fantasy world that television too often brings you of
Yeah, things just
white-shirted
kinda
technicians
go together, yeah.
in West Coast conversions or something,
Yeah.
where they draw it out and then brilliant people weld it together.
Yeah,
and
right.
bolt it in.
Execute. Yeah.
Maybe there, but you know, you can edit yourself to death.
Yeah, they only have a half an hour usually.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not
But
what
we
we're
don't
about.
do that. That's right.
This is, I want you to feel that this is a process, not a talent. It's an acquirable skill for an 8-year-old girl. And it's just a process that you have to go through. Would it be easier if I had done it for 28 years for a living working on cars? Oh, just shoot me. I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, think of the 28 years that got you there.
Yeah, I don't want to think about it. That wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm about. And so this is, can Joe Ordinary take a car, even a big and complicated car, and through persistence and just walking through a series of small problem-solving exercises, persistently
Yeah.
wind up with what he set out with. And this is, I wanted two 11-inch motors in the front of this vehicle in place of an internal combustion engine thing, mounted securely and mated to the transmission and torque converter, and keep all that.
Yeah.
Now that may not be a thing to want, but that's what I wanted, and we're there, buddy.
We're there. Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, Brian did most of the work, but I thought about it a lot.
He helped.
And I handed him stuff and jacked things up and that sort of thing. So it's, you know, sort of two grumpy old men in a dark shop fighting for tools.
That's right, hiding out in the shop. That's right.
Searching for tools.
Yeah, we spend more time
is
searching
what
for tools.
reality is around here.
That's
as many
right.
of you that came from EVCon know. But so I'm feeling pretty cocky now. We've got this motor in the vehicle.
We do.
And
we do.
The sensor problems seem to be melting away.
Yep.
I
As we're
always
learning.
knew this is the one we got to do.
Yes, we learned that with the Mini Cooper.
Yes, we have to have a heartbeat of RPM that is believable to whatever unit
Whatever is
controlling
looking at it.
everything.
Yep.
And after that, it should get to be pretty good. But this is the biggest motor we've dealt with. We don't even do 11s
Motors.
very much.
Yeah, just the Cobra was the.
We did the 11 HV and the Cobra, but this is a dual power plant. If we sag to 150 volts, which I don't think we will, we're only doing 5C on these 400
Right, on the
amp
400 amp
batteries
batteries.
wide open.
Yeah, that's all this controllers can put out. Yeah.
So that's, and we did 8C on Redux, and that's what took us to 147 volts from about the same voltage.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for 160 volts.
Yeah, we get 160 volts. We'd be
At
pretty
1,000 amps each.
each. Yeah, we'd be in good shape.
And that would be 320 kilowatts and close to 450 horsepower.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of power. Is that overkill? You know, on reflection, probably so. But
we don't really
it's
know.
A big,
Yeah, it's a big vehicle.
We have not done a vehicle this size, 7,200 pounds, with the batteries.
Right. Yeah, it's a big vehicle.
And probably 8,000 pounds with the people meat in it.
Yeah, right.
And, and so, you know, to some degree, overkill is always appropriate. My first automatic transmission project, and it's a 2008 Cadillac Escalade.
Yes, I know. We don't
No-
start out
no
easy.
fear.
That's right. Just go in, cinch up your depends.
Cinch
We're
up
going
your
in.
depends. We're going in.
in.
And I mean, you know, that is kind of
Yeah.
mentally unstable to approach something that way. We could have done a Plymouth or something first.
Yeah, we didn't have one.
We didn't have one. That's true. I had-
Jack had this Escalade laying around. He never drove anyway.
Well, but it was really a beloved vehicle. I
Yeah,
really
nice
liked
car.
this Escalade.
Yeah.
And
We can pull this off.
We kind of got to pull it off
Yeah,
because
it was a nice ride.
yeah, it was a very nice ride. I'm a big guy. I can't get around. My hips aren't working now. My knees aren't working. And it's just a very comfortable vehicle for me to get in and out of
Yeah.
and sit in. And
Very.
I love those little speedsters, but criminy, it's
There's some work.
It's like putting on a coat.
Yeah. And getting your arm stuck.
And so this is, if we get this together, this is a me kind of truck.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, I mean, that's part of the American thing is people like big vehicles and trucks and so forth. I would like to think that it's possible, if that's what you have to have, for that to be done. Again, I don't
Yeah,
want
have an electric one,
compromises.
yeah,
It's
right.
not. I want to drive electric cars, and I'm willing to, you know, eat grass to do it.
Right,
It's
right.
I
Yeah, why
want
should you have
the
to
advantages
compromise?
and not give up any of the advantages I've got. So, if we could pull this off, I'll have a big, highly air-conditioned vehicle. I mean, we've got heated steering wheel, heated windshield washers, adjustable pedals. It blows air conditioning up through little holes in the seat right up my skirt.
Yeah.
And cools my little
Cools your tushy.
narrow tushy. Which doesn't sound like a big deal in April, but in July,
July it is.
it's you'd be laughing out the
That's
other
right.
side of
It's
your
pretty
face.
good. That's right. It's a pretty good deal.
The you'll be a damp butt in that little Volvo. I'll be
Yeah.
cool and clean,
Crisp and clean, yeah, like a baby.
like a
Like a
baby.
baby, smooth as a baby's bottom.
Well, there you go. So anyway, Brain, thanks. This is you've kind of brought us home on this one, and a non-trivial one, I think.
It's been a challenge this week.
For my money, that's pretty much a factory install. That thing's in solid. It looks good. No wasted or extra clunky parts, and you know, big rusty welded brackets or anything. It's all nice and trim, and it's in there securely enough that
Yeah, we can shake the
I'll
truck
feel
with it, yeah.
confident with the build if we can make the motor turn. And so, good job.
All right, thanks. Well, that's what we've been doing this week, and a lot of it this afternoon. It was,
Boom,
I'm kind of
shakalaka,
beat,
mommy.
but we're in, man. We are in. 'Cause
That's you know, I've only got, they already are actually are 2.5 hours. They don't really want to sit through all that and the glacial pace. But part of it is this is not a staged thing so much. I'm trying to get the right mix of here's what we did, and we'll just wave our arms and explain, and showing.
and showing you actually,
But the message I want to carry is, number one, we're not automotive experts. You too can do this.
yeah.
And number two, it doesn't just go in
No, it
because
goes
we
in
had
and
a
out.
good idea. That how many times was that motor in?
Probably this week, 8, maybe a couple more last week, 4 more last week.
Oh, not that many. Really?
Yeah, you weren't here for all of them.
Oh, that's
You
right.
missed some of
I
them.
missed some.
You missed some of them.
Yeah, it was in 6 or 8.
Yeah,
serious
yeah,
times
really
for
6 or 8
profit.
times, seriously, yeah.
And so that's the process we live. It's not that we had a problem. We always have a problem. It is a problem. It's an exercise, a serial exercise in small problem solving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what you're taking
That's what you're
on.
doing, yeah.
If you get frustrated with that and like to have fantasies of you being an expert designer, and by the way, I know many expert designers and engineers, and this is how they do it too.
Yeah, right, it's all by approximation, yeah.
No, you do careful calculations, and we measured ourselves to death.
Yeah.
But things
But
do
then it
not
doesn't always work.
out that way. That is the process. It's not. There's no magic here.
No.
And, I see automotive shows and things on TV, and everything they touch does exactly what they described, and just
Yeah.
falls right into place. And
Yeah.
it just snick, and aren't they experts and professionals?
Yeah, with a huge shop behind them and all the stuff that didn't work in a pile that they won't show you.
Exactly. Well, I think that's the wrong message.
Yeah, we want to show you how.
what is involved
Yep.
in doing this. And if you don't get in a hurry and get frustrated with it, by the way, I find it enormously satisfying.
Uh-huh. And eventually it will work out. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, right. You
Yeah,
just keep
you weren't on a time schedule when you started.
pull
were
it
you?
out and cut that corner off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just do it again.
It's, you're not out until you quit and go in the house and don't ever have anything to do with it again. And if that's
Yeah,
not
and
your intention, at this point, I frankly have kind of milked these projects, not for more videos, but just
Because when they're over, we're done.
we've done enough now that I don't like that period where my car didn't need me anymore.
That's right, that's
We're here to do the project, and it's a very satisfying experience for me, which surprises me because I never did like working on cars.
I guess we're not really working on cars.
Well, we kind of are, but
Yeah,
they're not
it's not
covered.
the same
although
thing.
That
A little bit of
Escalade,
stuff
I
on
get
the
a little bit
Escalade.
of grease,
Yeah, there's
but
some blowback on the Escalade.
generally, it's clean, and it's. I don't have to get it done at all.
No, and we just get it done when we get it done,
If you want to call it a putter, we just putter along with it until
till it works.
we're driving the car.
Yep.
And it's almost a letdown at that point.
Yeah, it's like, all right.
Did we shoot anything else this week we ought to talk about?
Do we have any video from anybody this week? Anything come
Not
over
really.
the transom?
No,
Okay.
No, a couple guys bailed me out last week.
Yep, right. We had that on there
and,
last week. No, I think that's really it. I mean, we worked on the Platinum series, the little A123 pack, the Escalade,
The green motor.
green motor, rebuilt motor. That's a heck of a week. What the heck were we doing? We were working too hard. Let's putter again.
It's because we took last week pretty much off. All
right.
My brothers and sisters and their kids.
Yeah, you
were
had a lot
in
of family
town.
out here. Yeah, it was a busy week. Yeah.
I had actually a great week. It was actually a beautiful passing, a beautiful visitation, beautiful mass, and it was the first time my immediate family had been together in many years. with everybody. So we were,
Yeah, it was great.
frankly, partying like rock stars. I appreciate all the expressions of condolence, but the huge grief pool around here really isn't happening. We said everything needed to be said. She wanted to be with Dad, who passed in '75, and so everybody, including her, was pretty much on board with this.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we had a party last week, and it was
We did.
A great family time where nephews and nieces I haven't seen since they were little kids, and they're all out of college and working now.
Yep, good.
So it was all in all a good thing, and we're back to work this week, and it has been a week.
With a vengeance,
But,
yeah.
Criminy, I'm good to go, and we're making a little progress. We're going to expand our online store. That's going well. The J1772 connectors,
Yeah, I think we're out of them again.
we're out again.
Yeah, we got.
We got 7 more, and they're gone.
They're gone.
They sold out in one day.
Yes, on a Sunday.
Yes.
They sold out on a Sunday.
And it's
You guys
just,
are busy on Sunday, obviously.
I'm-
Get something to do. Build a car.
Hey, we appreciate the support.
Absolutely.
And we're going to find nothing but the very top quality and unusual things. I'm not really going to try to run the conversion shops and suppliers out of business, but if we can find top quality stuff,
Yeah. And some different items that we can use differently and maybe document better for people.
yeah, a lot of it is that.
Is the value added, yeah.
Yeah, it's just some of the vendors don't. These two actually do.
Yeah,
write
these have pretty good stuff.
George's got a new book. He didn't have it entirely done, but a shop manual that's
Yeah, we
pretty
kind
good.
of looked at it yesterday. It was
And,
pretty nice, yeah.
So he didn't exactly tell us about the wave washers.
You know what's funny?
in the
You
book.
can see them here. Where this one that doesn't have a shaft, you can see the 2 wave washers on the end,
Yes,
on
you
the,
can.
on the commutator end. Yep.
And so
When they don't have that seal on the shaft, you can actually see them. So, yeah, it was a good week.
But
Good stuff.
our mission is still to enable you. I need 100,000 of you. You need to go build an electric car. You need to go tear down a road in victory in it, and be sure your neighbors, your brother-in-law, and the smart ass down the street don't miss it.
That's right. That's
And
Paint it bright
that
red.
done, when you accomplish that, Mr. Imelt will be pleased to learn that electric cars did indeed reach tipping point.
Did it? Well, that's right.
And General Electric's future remains secure.
That's right.
And more than that, they're still adventuring in Iran and Afghanistan, and it's just, I was telling my wife this morning, these people need to go visit there. They had all these talking heads on TV. I could tell none of them have ever been there.
Oh, yeah, probably not.
These
Yeah,
are-
I haven't.
These are
No.
wretched people.
Yeah, I
in
don't
a-
wanna go.
In a sorry piece of ground you wouldn't have if they gave it to you,
Mm-hmm.
and that we risk one young American or $40 on any of it is largely the necessity of that is in some crazed politician's mind.
Right. Yeah, it's all made up at this point.
It's the whole government trying to keep us secure is in a frenzy of stupid.
Yeah, what did they do this week? The TSA, they patted down a 4-year-old.
And a congressman.
And a congressman, yeah. Well, congressman, that's okay. That probably looked a little shady.
Our government is becoming a national embarrassment.
Thank God all the rest of them are just as bad or worse.
Yes. Democracy. All the others are so much worse.
So much worse, that's right.
At least ours can be amusing.
Yes.
They're so pathetic. But that's it.
Okay.
Have you-
No, I think we nailed it. I think
Are
we're
you
ready.
tired of me talking?
I think we put another one in a can. And what is it, about 6:30? I'm ready for a martini.
Is it?
Probably.
I have to go to a
He's
ballet.
got to go to the ballet.
We'll see y'all next week.
All right, see you then.